With the arrival of the Super Famicom, developers now had an opportunity to really start revolutionizing their games. Super Mario World, Link to the Past, and Star Fox were showing us just what this new hardware was capable of. On January 21st, 1994, Intelligent Systems would grace the market with their newest entry in the Fire Emblem series, marking their official debut into the 16-bit era. Much like Link to the Past, this newest title was a return to form. Gone were many of the poorly received mechanics introduced in Gaiden. Keisuke Terasake would return as director for this entry, and yet again our man, Gunpei Yokoi, was sitting in the producer's chair. Shozu Kaga would again, much like Shadow Dragon and Gaiden, work as the lead designer and story writer. Development would begin for this title in 1992, even though Gaiden was still being developed alongside it. The graphics were enhanced and the difficulty lowered, all in hopes to bring in bigger sales and a wider audience. This entry in the series would mark a few historical feats for the franchise. Mystery of the Emblem had the best first week debut, managing to sell over 750,000 units, but was dethroned 18 years later, when Fire Emblem Awakening hit store shelves. It was the first remake in the series as well. For context, Mystery of the Emblem is split into two parts, Book 1 and Book 2. Book 1 is a remake of Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light, while Book 2 is a continuation of the events that occurred after Marth defeats Medeus and Garneth. It is also one of the first Super Famicom games to utilize a 24 megabit cartridge. Now, let's get into the roll call of characters that we're about to meet. I'm going to go through this relatively quickly because we have a lot of characters to cover. Be prepared to hear some butchering of some names. We have Marth, Abel, Cain, Jagan, Gordon, Draug, Keda, Borg, Cord, Barst, Ogma, Castor, Julian, Lena, Navarre, Roshea, Violend, Sedgar, Wolf, Hardin, Mathis, Merrick, Wendell, Rickard, Bantu, Caesar, Rad, Maria, Minerva, George, Lind, Dolph, Michelin, Thomas, Boa, Midia, Astrom, Katria, Pala, Aaron, Samson, Zane, Tiki, Est, Lorenz, and Elise. Now with that out of the way, let's talk about the game itself. Mystery of the Emblem introduced several new gameplay mechanics, the most game-changing being the dismount command. Units such as Pegasus Knights, Wyvern Riders, and Cavaliers can now hop off their mount and fight on foot. For the first time, when a player selects a unit, they can now see the range of mobility, indicated by a highlighted area. One of the biggest changes for me, however, is allowing Priest and Priestess units to gain experience when using staves. Before, the only way that they could gain experience was being attacked by enemy units, which can be rage-inducing at times due to their mediocre defensive stats. Let's get into some story though that the game has to offer. Book 1, as I said, is a retelling of the events that took place in Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light. I already covered these events in part 1, but in case you are new to the Awakening the Emblem series, here's a quick recap. Taking place on the continent of Archinea, Marth is a young prince of the kingdom of Altea. He is forced to flee his homeland after the neighboring kingdom of Dolhir invades Altea. With his father slain in the battle and his sister Elise taken captive by the dark priest Garneth, Marth flees to Talis and begins raising an army in hopes to regain his home and his sister. Book 2, however, takes place 2 years after the events of Book 1. The War of Heroes kicks off when the Emperor of Archinea and Marth's former ally in the War of Shadows, Hardin, begins taking kingdoms by force. Marth is stunned by the actions of his former friend, and soon realizes that dark forces are the culprit behind Hardin's recent actions. Marth learns that the Shadow Dragon Medeus lives on, and is again attempting to destroy the world. Marth sets off to regain the Fire Emblem, and collect the 12 Star Sphere shards as well as the other 4 spheres. The spheres, when fused with the Fire Emblem itself, create the Binding Shield, a legendary weapon in which Marth will use alongside its counterpart Falchion to finally defeat Medeus for good, and prevent history from repeating itself ever again. The game was received very positively, citing both its graphical enhancements as well as the story that it tells. In an article for Nintendo Life, Gonzalo Lopes would say that it was not only the best of the series thus far, but possibly one of the best games for the system as a whole. Praise that would seem laughable to some, due to the sheer scope of what we could already call perfect games out at the time. Mystery of the Emblem was a turning point for the series. The popularity of the game skyrocketed. Fire Emblem was finally being recognized in Japan as a household name. So much so, Fire Emblem received its very own BS Fire Emblem game for the Satellaview, as well as that, thing we don't talk about.
I am Mars. Mars Lowell, heir to the throne of Arishi.
Let them all go, but more!
And with that, yet another emblem has been awakened. This series is only starting to heat up though. Tune in next episode, and I'll tell you the story of the Holy War.